Gary Lineker apologizes for Zionism repost featuring image of rat. Gary Lineker has apologized unreservedly for a social media repost featuring a rat, saying he would never knowingly share anything anti-Semitic. The 64-year-old presenter faced criticism after he shared a post on Instagram from the Palestine lobby group showing a picture of a rat entitled, "Zionism Explained in 2 Minutes." In a statement, he said, "On Instagram I reposted material which I have since learned contained offensive references. I very much regret these references. I would never knowingly share anything anti-Semitic. It goes against everything I believe in." The post was removed as soon as I became aware of the issue. Whilst I strongly believe in the importance of speaking out on humanitarian issues, including the tragedy unfolding in Gaza, I also know that how we do so matters. I take full responsibility for this mistake. That image does not reflect my views. It was an error on my part for which I apologize unreservedly. BBC Director General Tim Davies said on Wednesday morning, "When it comes to presenters, I just say that the BBC reputation is held by everyone, and when someone makes a mistake, it costs us. And I think we absolutely need people to be exemplars of the BBC values and follow our social media policy. Simple as that." Rats have historically been used in anti-Semitic propaganda, including by the Nazis in 1930s Germany. Lineker's agent told the BBC the presenter immediately deleted the post when he learned about the image's symbolism. The presenter was temporarily suspended from the BBC in March 2023 after an impartiality row over comments he made criticizing the then Conservative government's new asylum policy. Iran ready to make nuclear concessions as Trump asks for Qatar's help getting a deal. A top Iranian official has said the country is prepared to make a number of concessions related to its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. It comes as Donald Trump, during his tour of the Middle East, urged Qatar to wield its influence over Iran to persuade it to give up its nuclear program. Ali Shimkhani, a top political, military, and nuclear advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he said Tehran was willing to commit to never making nuclear weapons again, getting rid of its stockpiles of highly enriched uranium, which can be weaponized, agree to only enrich uranium to the lower levels needed for civilian use and allow international inspectors to supervise the process. This was in exchange for the prospect of the immediate lifting of all economic sanctions on the country. Asked if Iran would sign an agreement today if those conditions were met, Mr. Shimkhani told yes. His comments are the clearest public indication of what Iran hopes to get out of a deal and their willingness to do one. It's still possible. If the Americans act as they say, for sure we can have better relations, Mr. Shimkhani added. However, he expressed frustration at continued threats from the U.S. president, describing them as all barbed wire and no olive branch. Similarly, he warned that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu might try to derail the deal. Elsewhere, on the second of 3 stops on his tour of the Middle East, Mr. Trump appealed to Qatar for help in the process. He urged the country to use its influence over Iran to persuade its leadership to reach a deal with the U.S. and dial back its rapidly advancing nuclear program. Mr. Trump made the comments during a state dinner. This comes after Mr. Trump told a Gulf Cooperation Council meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, this week that he wants to make a deal. However, he said that as part of any agreement, Iran must end its support of proxy groups throughout the Middle East. Mr. Trump has always said Iran could not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. The US and Iran reached a nuclear deal in 2015, under Barack Obama, in which Iran agreed to drastically reduce its stockpile of uranium and limit enriching up to 3.67%. But Mr. Trump scrapped that deal in his first term. Today, Iran enriches up to 60%, a short, technical step from weapons-grade levels. Washington and Tehran have engaged in 4 rounds of talks since early April. British teenager arrested on drug trafficking charges in Georgia after going missing in Thailand. A British teenager has been arrested in Georgia on suspicion of drug trafficking after she went missing in Thailand. Georgia's Interior Ministry said an 18-year-old British citizen was arrested at Tbilisi International Airport while attempting to smuggle 12 kilograms of cannabis and 2 kilograms of hashish, a cannabis concentrate, into the country. She could face up to 20 years or life in prison if she is convicted. Police footage showed sealed packages the teenager was allegedly attempting to smuggle into Georgia. It also showed her handcuffed as she was brought to a police station in Tbilisi. Police said she had been charged with the illegal possession of drugs, as well as smuggling them into the country. The 18-year-old appeared at a court in the capital city Tbilisi for a hearing on pretrial detention on Tuesday. Georgian media said the suspect told the court she was pregnant but did not answer the judge's questions about the drug allegations. The prosecutor's office has said an investigation is underway to identify any possible accomplices. Cleveland police in the UK said it had confirmation an 18-year-old woman from Billingham had been arrested in Georgia on suspicion of drugs offences and she remains in custody. The force had previously said she had gone missing and was believed to be in Thailand. A spokesperson for the Foreign Office said, "We are supporting the family of a British woman who is detained in Georgia and are in contact with the local authorities." Donald Trump risks becoming impatient and losing interest in Gaza. Donald Trump's visit to Qatar today, the next stop on his Middle East tour, is an opportunity for substantive talks on Gaza. Many of the key players will be in the same city. The Hamas leadership is based in Doha. The Qataris have been one of the main mediators. Israel has sent a small delegation and the US president and his team will be on the ground. As the diplomatic players are converging, Israeli attacks on Gaza are intensifying. More than 60 people have been killed in the past 24 hours according to local health officials, some of them in 2 hospitals bombed by the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. The IDF said it was targeting Mohammed Sinwar, Hamas's leader in Gaza, but there is still no confirmation of his death. Israel is still pushing a plan to enable Gazans to leave voluntarily, an idea legitimized by President Trump earlier in the year when he said he wanted to own Gaza. There is growing international opposition to this and Israel's plan to expand its campaign. An attempt to force people out of Gaza would be an act of ethnic cleansing, and many point out that it would hardly be a voluntary choice when Palestinians have been under Israeli fire for almost 19 months, internally displaced many times over, most of their homes are totally destroyed, and there has been a months-long aid blockade. If there is to be a breakthrough in ceasefire talks, it will require the US president to change his position and put pressure on Israel. There are signs he might be inclined to do so following his success freeing hostage Eden Alexander. Arab states are also putting pressure on Hamas to come to a deal, if nothing else, to delay the Israeli offensive and create more time for further talks. If no progress is made this week, there is a risk that President Trump, impatient as he is, might again lose interest in Gaza. A ban on chlorinated chicken has protected farmers, but it's protected UK consumers too. In American abattoirs, it is standard practice designed to reduce levels of bacteria like Salmonella and Campylobacter, the leading source of foodborne illness in the US, as well as here in the UK. The chlorine wash itself is not the problem. Numerous studies have shown trace amounts of chlorine on meat pose no risk to health, and we consume far more in our tap water every day than we would get from eating it. Instead, the argument behind the ban on chlorination here in the UK and Europe is that it can cover up poor hygiene standards during the rearing or slaughtering of chickens. During trade negotiations, the US has long argued that it is just an excuse for protectionism, a reason to keep significantly cheaper US chicken out of British supermarkets and restaurants. But the main reason American chicken is cheaper than ours comes down to animal welfare standards. In the UK, For example, there are legal limits on the number of birds that can be crammed into a shed. In the US, there are none at a federal level at least. The same goes for lighting and bedding material, also key for healthy, happy chickens. With higher stocking densities, lower costs for lighting, bedding, and being able to use antibiotics to boost growth also banned here in the UK, big chicken in America can produce more meat at much lower cost. A ban on chlorinated chicken has effectively kept cheaper, lower welfare chicken out of the UK for decades. The US and free market campaigners aren't wrong, it has protected our farmers from competition. But it has protected UK consumers too, the majority of whom care about the lives of the animals they eat. Bad weather, biggest factor affecting Wales visitor numbers. Businesses in Wales will be able to claim grant funding to protect tourists from the rain. The Welsh Government has introduced the funding after poor weather was the main reason given for why fewer people holidayed in Wales last summer. The £1 million fund will mean eligible businesses can apply for grants of between £5,000 and £20,000 to introduce weatherproofing measures. Those measures could include canopies, covered seating areas, or improved pathways and car park surfaces, according to the Welsh Government. The announcement of the new fund comes as Wales prepares to introduce a visitor levy, also known as a tourism tax. The latest figures from the Great Britain Tourism Survey show there were 8.44 million overnight trips taken in Wales by British residents in 2023, with a total spend of £2.02 billion. While the volume of trips was 3% lower than in 2022, expenditure was 7% higher. But recent data from Visit Wales showed poor weather was given by 55% of businesses as the reason for fewer visitors last summer. Carwyn Rees runs Irwan Caravan and Camping Park in Llandovery. He told that the weather in the UK was a significant factor affecting tourism numbers, particularly those visitors who flitter between staying in the UK and going abroad. Easter was a wet one, so a lot of sites across Wales had to cancel because the ground was too wet for people to drive upon, he said. Mr. Rees said he hoped the weatherproofing funds would encourage more visitors to stay in the UK and to spend their money locally. Wales's Cabinet Secretary for Tourism Rebecca Evans said the weather was the single biggest factor affecting visitor numbers to Welsh attractions. Poor weather can stop them operating as normal, impact on the experience, and has the potential to discourage visits in the first place. That's why we have listened to the concerns of people working in the tourism attraction sector and launched this fund, helping them prepare for increasingly variable weather patterns, she said.